Stardust, Chapter 32, Visitor. U.S. air bases overseas nearly deserted as airmen abroad are deployed to bolster National Guard casualties suffered during alien assault that was repelled earlier in the month. Senator Goldman publicly supported the reassignment in a recent press release. "It's these brave men and women we rely upon, not glorified vigilantes." Disgraced amateur astronomers, whom reported moving stars in the sky, are vindicated as similar reports are verified by hundreds of stargazers in North America last night. Professional astronomers are in various states of denial and disbelief as more evidence piles up to support the phenomena. 8:32 a.m., May 22nd, 2013. Medical. Matt exited the Barracks medical section with a stunned look on his face before turning to the mess hall. He idly remembered passing base personnel in the corridors, but what snapped him out of his daze was a figure bumping into his shoulder as he passed. "Oh, sorry there," the other person said affably as Matt turned to get a good look at him. He was tall and wore a well-tailored business suit and tie, and carried a suitcase in his left hand. His hair was far too long for military standard, and was well too styled to be a regular onto the base. Wired frame glasses sat onto his nose and partially hid his gray eyes, while his smile was wide enough to seem sincere without being creepy. All told, the man was perfectly forgettable and wouldn't have seemed out of place in an average civilian office. But XCOM's Barracks wasn't an office, and Matt turned to challenge the man when he caught sight of the security badge clipped onto the breast pocket of his jacket. Before he could scrutinize any further, a hand fell onto his shoulder, which startled him enough to nearly jump out of his skin.
"Yo, Matt!"
Lana greeted with a smirk, though it faded when she noticed the reaction from Matt.
"What's wrong? You're not usually this jumpy."
"I was just..." Matt started to answer as he turned back to the man who had bumped into him to find out that he had vanished. Never mind, sorry." "That is understandable," Zhang said politely as he hovered behind Lana's shoulder. "Perhaps we should converse in the mess hall. If we speak here, we may impede traffic." The Chinese man stepped to the side to allow a pair of scientists and an engineer to make their way to the elevator at the end of the corridor.
"Sounds like a plan. So, what'd the doctor say?"
Lana turned and headed towards the mess hall, while the two men fell in behind her.
"The aliens didn't screw with your head, did they? You've never been twitchy after a mission, and you've never even got shot at or lacerated much."
The trio entered the mess hall and sat at an unoccupied table a reasonable distance from the nearest group. When both Zhang and Lana remained silent, Matt finally explained. "Well, preliminary tests confirmed that there are no signs of mental tampering, but they mentioned that there was lingering damage from something. I don't know what, I'm no doctor. They said that it would work itself out in time. Shouldn't really affect my performance. Pardon me for saying so, but I would think that would be good news. Your expression seems more appropriate for someone who has just been diagnosed with a terminal condition," Zhang observed as he clasped his hands onto the table before him. "I have also spoken with the commander, Bradford, and after reviewing all the information available and assuming I pass the rest of tests today, I will be promoted to lieutenant and assume command of Strike 1, Matt answered. "I would think that would be cause for celebration rather than trepidation." Zhang's normally neutral expression lifted into the ghost of a smile, while Lana's was almost enough to take in her ears before it halted. Lana's smile slowly shrank before she asked,
"You're thinking about the others, aren't you? Jasimski and Fowler?"
The smile on Zhang's face faded as well as Lana continued.
"It's an unfortunate fact that we have to live with while working here. People get hurt or die. Someone needs to replace them. And you've got your head on straight, and Strike 1 trusts you. Who else could do it?"
"You... I guess you have a point," Matt admitted, though in his mind he disagreed. "Who else could do it? Jasimski and Fowler and Captain Donnelly before them, they could command. I'm just as good at surviving." With her point made, Lana's smile became a mischievous smirk.
"Though, when we put it that way, you might consider the diagnosis of Lieutenant to be a terminal
Anything else Lana might have said was lost as her jaw clamped shut to suppress a grunt of pain. She turned to glare daggers at Zhang, who continued to sit serenely as though nothing had happened. "Perhaps another subject would be best for discussion," Zhang offered while continuing to ignore Lana. The nature of the enemies we encountered were surprising, to say the least. Wouldn't you agree?
Indeedy. I never expected to run into folks like them. Ever.
Lana admitted as she turned back to Matt.
Seriously, that stuff they were doing... that's not natural. The sniper I took down, I had to cave in his skull just to make him stay down. Not natural, I tell you.
You can say that again. 1 lang shot to the chest, 2 arc charges, and a handful of pistol shots weren't enough to take down one I fought. You would have likely had me if you hadn't stepped in, Lana. Matt added as he replayed the particular fight in his head. Speaking of which, what's your opinions on the Excalibur? I haven't really had a chance to try it on range yet. Does it measure up to your old shotgun?
Oh, thing's heavy as sin, but it packs a punch. Clip is a bit more convenient than the shotgun. No kick either, which took a bit of getting used to. I honestly wouldn't think that I was even shooting a real gun if it wasn't for the bloody bits that showed up in the folks that I shot.
Lana explained with as much enthusiasm as could be expected. I felt the same regarding the Lank rifle. For all the power it has, it simply feels like a toy. Mr. Shen mentioned having completed a few sniper variants that he offered for testing on the range. I may spend some time acquainting myself with it later today. Zhang added, though he arched an eyebrow when he noticed the amount of scrutiny Matt was giving him. What? You shut your eyes during the firefight and got 2 headshots on enemy in cover, Matt stated as he leaned forward and lowered his voice, and Lana looked at Zhang as well. Once, it might have been a lucky fluke, but twice, with such precision as a matter of skill. How did you do it? I do not know, Zhang answered after a long pause. He looked down at his palm and stared before blinking and looking away. I do not know, but I think the cause may be related to our friend in Stardust.
The gifts, then? Well, I suppose congratulations are in order.
Lana gave Zhang a hard slap onto the back.
The next class is set up for tomorrow at noon, and I'm sure the teacher would be happy to see another familiar face. Come to think of it, we're gonna be having a movie night tomorrow down at Stardust, and just about everyone who knows about the project is invited.
Zhang's first reply was to nod, but as Lana elaborated, he hesitated. I will decline the invitation for the event tonight, though I appreciate the offer. I would not want to spoil the atmosphere with my presence.
Wait, what are you talking about?
I have not been as good as a friend as I should have been, and I wish to reconcile the inadequacy formally. Were I to make my apologies this evening, it would leave a negative tone for the rest of the night. It would be best to make amends tomorrow, I think, Zhang explained, and when silence came back to him, he elaborated. I made several hasty and incorrect assumptions regarding the nature of our friend and the Stardust Labs, which I used as an excuse to behave poorly. I hope this will be resolved tomorrow before the meeting. Well, good enough, I suppose, Matt said before looking at his watch. I'm afraid I gotta get back to medical for another round of tests, but I should be done by lunch. When's the movie start?
About 5 or so,
Lana replied, and Matt nodded and stepped away from the table. Well, I would not miss it for the world. 12:02 p.m., May 22nd, 2015. Medical. Begin log. Gift analysis for Commander David Bradford. Foresight. The ability to predict or the action of predicting what will happen or be needed in the future. Strengths of this ability are obvious. Events can be predicted with a significant amount of certainty within a certain time frame. Weaknesses of ability include debilitating head pain that correlates in severity of the amounts of events predicted by Foresight. While Foresight can predict events that may occur, once this information is acted on, the following events may change in ways not anticipated by Foresight. This weakness may be bypassed by short 1 to 3 second usages of Foresight, but repeated use of the ability in this manner has a negative impact on perception of events as they occur in real time. Practice or repeated use may lessen this weakness. Further weakness is that events predicted by Foresight must be within sensory range of Commander Bradford. This weakness may be bypassed through the use of radio and video information, but without such assistance, then Foresight is limited to events within his sight or hearing. Current maximum amount of time Foresight may be used to predict 12 seconds from start before pain prevents further usage. Speculated practice may extend this time frame. End log. David Bradford grumbled as he reviewed the report he had cobbled together from his impressions of his surprising ability. Looks like a disorganized mess. Should probably contact Dr. Valen. She's more able to write reports like this, though it would have to be kept secret. I don't want this to just get around the base. Not that there's much danger of that. The other gifted soldiers are doing a remarkable job of keeping their abilities secret. Bradford's fingers hovered over his tablet computer's save keys, and he gave his ramblings report another review. All the other gifted soldiers have already been documented. I just have to submit this mess to make it official. Rather than dither any longer, he tapped the keys to save his work and was rewarded with an error message. Alert. This file is currently in use of another location, Office of Commander David Bradford. Would you like to save as a new file? Bradford blinked as he finished reading the error message before tucking the tablet under his arm and marching out of medical. Soldiers, scientists, and engineers alike parted before him without so much as a word requesting them to do so, and he knew why. He was hiding the thunder and was letting it show. He rounded a corner and passed briefly through the barracks before ascending the staircase to the upper level where his office was located. Without stopping, he swiped the badge past the terminal and stormed into the office. Ah, the illustrious Commander Bradford. A voice could be heard from behind the desk that dominated the room, and Bradford's #1 glare fell upon the man sitting behind it. He was quite possibly the blandest person Bradford has ever seen, with brown hair and gray eyes behind expansive-looking wireframe glasses. You may call me Mr. Veidt. I must say, I've been quite a fan of yours since this undertaking. The man Veidt stood and rounded the desk before offering a placating smile and an offered hand. Bradford returned neither. What are you doing in my office? Bradford asked, his voice carefully controlled as he glared at Veidt. He was just about to call for a security detail when Veidt's smile became less placating and more self-deprecating. His offered hand came up to scratch the back of his head, and he asked sheepishly, After Operation Viking's preliminary reports, the Council wanted an immediate update on all recent developments. They made the arrangements with security to allow me access. Did the message not reach you? Oh dear. This is awkward. You haven't answered my question. Why are you in my office? As I mentioned earlier, the Council has become extremely interested in the developments that have been made since your last reports. You might say they're a bit like kids on Christmas Eve. They want to know everything that's happened now, rather than wait until the end-of-month report. Veidt explained clumsily. As such, I've been empowered to gather this information for them. As I understand, several soldiers amongst the strike teams have begun to show superhuman abilities. Lana Jenkins, Matt Harris, Yumiko Fujikawa, Yuri Romanov, and the late Raymond Rodriguez, if I'm not mistaken. Have any of the base's support personnel begun to show any signs of similar abilities? Bradford's glare released a hold on Veidt's eyes to glance down at his security badge. The badge itself appeared legitimate to the naked eye, and the badge's color coding indicated command-level access. Still, there's something wrong with this, he thought before turning his gaze back to Veidt's face. Unknown. Testing is not yet complete for the base personnel, so I cannot answer that question accurately at this time, Bradford reported without a second's hesitation. Well, it's technically true. I haven't really finished testing my ability to satisfy my curiosity. A report will be compiled at the end of the month for the Council detailing everyone who possesses the gift on the base. Oh, I understand completely. Veidt nodded before turning back to Bradford's desk to retrieve a suitcase. You are doing excellent work, and I hope you continue it until the XCOM project reaches its end, he said with another affable smile as he reached the exit to the office. As the door slid open, he stepped through before turning around and straightening his glasses. Remember, I will be watching. Security. This is Bradford. Do you have clearance requests for any individuals named Veidt? Bradford asked as he brought a hand up to his headset.
I have a record of the highest security authorization and clearance for a visitor by that name, sir. The request was submitted and approved last night. The authorization gives Veidt Carte Blanche authority to go where he chooses without escort.
Bradford turned to the computer onto his desk and pulled up his notifications and found one regarding VIP clearance matching the man's description. I could have sworn I checked my messages last night. Understood. Thanks for checking. Keep an eye out on our visitor and inform me if there's any problems. Bradford out. 4:32 p.m., May 22nd, 2015. The Foundry. Charles Shen raked his eyes across the table before him as he drank in the technological marvels that were captured in the last mission. Several weapons positively identified as lasers of similar output to XCOM's own were arrayed. The first few examples appear to be closer to the traditional ballistic rifles with a clearly identifiable buttstock, pistol grip, magazine, and a trio of tactical rails mounted on either side and beneath the barrel. The profile of the weapon was significantly slimmer than the boxy laser rifles that XCOM had produced, which led to a correspondingly lower total weight. The magazine-shaped batteries of the rifle carried 10 shots less approximately, but were half the size and weight. To Charles Shen, it was much more than a captured enemy weapon. It was a personal challenge. Anything you can do, I can do better. Charles remembered the sing-song taunt with a grimace. And to think, I was proud of the lasers we had developed. The SAW versions of their lasers have a similar size and weight as our rifles, but maintains the ammo capacity and weight of our heavy lasers. Any further musing by the aging engineer was interrupted when two others approached the tables with two of their captured lasers in their hands. They placed the weapons at the end of the table before turning to the chief engineer. It was as bad as we thought, boss, the first said with a worried expression. Nearly identical energy output, but the guns are just better. Whoever made these things wasn't just a good engineer, he's an excellent gunsmith too. Then we should be thankful we were able to capture these before we saw wide distribution, Charles said with the best smile that he could fake. Treat them like any enemy weapon we've encountered thus far. Strip one of each down and catalog every piece. The enemy might be trying to tell us something if they're better at this than we are, but I'd like to show them that they're wrong. Understood, sir. I should have all three torn down by tomorrow night, and barring any problems, we should be able to integrate their advancements into our own weapons within a week, the other engineer reported before picking up several items off the table and setting them onto the cart beside him. Good. I hope we can hold down the fort until tomorrow. I'm afraid I have prior obligation that I'll need to attend to this evening, Charles said as he stepped away from the table. The engineer beside the cart gave a short laugh and shooed the older man away with a wave of his hands. Go, old man. Take a night off for once. We'll keep things under control. Charles quickly nodded his thanks and beat a hasty exit from the Foundry's main work area, but not before stepping into his office to pick up an unlabeled DVD case and a portable projector. He gave one quick wave as he exited the Foundry before turning towards the Stardust Labs. Twilight said that she loved the book, so I know she'll like the movie. Charles' confidence slipped just a tad. Well, unless she's one of those literature purists. Still, I think it'll be good for everyone involved if we take it easy just a little bit every once in a while. It wasn't long before he reached the Stardust Labs, where the only delay was a quick inspection of the DVD case and the movie inside. Neither guard commented, but both arched an eyebrow when he saw the movie title. The two guards resumed their posts, and Charles made his way into the lab's testing area. Most of the personnel who were involved in the Stardust project were in attendance. Matt and Lana were flanking Twilight, who appeared to be in high spirits, while Joel Mills and Kim No stood opposite beside the central table. All those gathered smiled and waved at Charles as he entered the room. Oh, my apologies for my tardiness. I hope I didn't keep you all waiting, he said as he gave each person a nod. Is this everyone? Will Frank, Shoji, or Moira be joining us? Oh, Frank and Shoji are both busy tonight. I spoke with them this afternoon, Matt answered. They did say they would make it to your class tomorrow, Twilight. A warm grin spread across his face when Twilight's initial disappointment was reverted at the news.
Dr. Valen expresses her regrets at being unable to attend. From what I understand, she's still going through some of the stuff she recovered recently, Kim reported, and the emphasis she placed on the word stuff was enough to indicate what she was doing for those who were familiar with Valen's usual duties. What stuff?
Twilight asked guilelessly, and Kim stuttered several times as she attempted to come up with a plausible explanation. Oh, just a few odds and ends that the aliens may have left behind, Charles explained quickly. like the sectoid that was captured. I'm sure if she finds something interesting, she'll bring it down to share with you tomorrow.
Well, maybe one of you can go ask her to join us and take the night off? I get the feeling that she works really hard and doesn't really take any time to relax.
Twilight offered and was rewarded with incredulous looks from the humans around her.
What? Oh, come on. I overworked myself once. I got a lot better than I used to be, and I think it might be fun to have everyone together.
Perhaps another time then. You're right though, Valen is very dedicated to her work. Charles agreed before continuing. What she is doing now though is very important. Once things calm down, we'll see about getting another night together like this.
Speaking of which, what exactly is the plan for tonight? Giant card game? I don't think we've gone over any games yet for so many people.
Twilight said as she looked over the 5 humans in the room. We've actually been doing something different. You've had a chance to see videos that were posted through the tablet you were given, yes? Charles asked, and when Twilight nodded, he continued. It's a common practice for us humans to gather to watch videos like those, except these videos are a bit longer and usually tell a story, and I think you'll like it. Just about everyone here has seen it already, I think. Saw it in theaters when I was 13, I think? Sister was 7 and both of us got hooked on those books after that. Matt confirmed with a smirk.
Same here.
Lana nodded and her expression turned nostalgic.
Me and the brothers all crammed into the theater at 7 in the morning the day after it came out. I worked part-time there and the manager gave us a discount showing before it even opened up.
Took the kids to it about 6 times. Joel smiled widely. I could probably quote whole sections of the movie to you from memory.
I haven't seen it yet.
Kim added when all eyes fell on her.
What? Don't look at me like that, like I'm some sort of cultural Luddite. I was in the middle of my thesis project, and I didn't have enough time to sleep, let alone see a movie. Okay, how about we all just watch the movie now rather than poke fun at the poor college kid I used to be, okay?
Chuckles and smiles were all had as they filed into Twilight's habitat. Twilight situated herself onto the bed, while Lana and Matt took seats at the table beside the bed. Joel and Kim pulled the remaining chairs out from under the table and situated them on the opposite side of the bed. Charles busied himself while setting up the projector and feeding the disc into its corresponding slot in the projector. With the projector powering up, he quickly dragged the chair out from Twilight's work desk and brought it to rest beside Matt at the table. I guess I'll get the lights, he said before heading to the light switch by the door. His fingers almost made it to the light switch before a beep issued from his jacket pocket. I should have known, Charles thought as he resisted the urge to rub his eyes with his hands. One of the engineers is trying to contact me. It's probably an emergency, so I don't know when I'll get back. Feel free to go on without me, he reported as he dimmed the lights and hit the door controls to exit the habitat. The door stayed open just long enough for Charles to catch the look of wonder on Twilight's face when the projector revealed an owl sitting on a street sign that read PRIVET space DR. This is Shen, Charles reported cheerfully as he brought the headset from his pocket to his head. And for your sake, the base had better be about to self-destruct. Sir, there's a man in the Foundry and he's not an engineer. The voice on the other end of the line reported quickly, and his hurried tone indicated the seriousness of the subject. His security badge has proper clearance, but he's accessing files on just about everything. Do you know about this? No, I don't. I'll be there in just a moment, Charles grumbled as he closed the line and retraced his steps back to the Foundry. Just like the engineer had reported, a man in a well-tailored business suit was sitting at the main terminal of the Foundry while showing every sign of being enthralled by what he saw on the monitor. Several engineers continued their work nearby, and all of them appeared to be watching the suited man out of the corner of their eyes. Oh, Dr. Raymond Charles Shen, the man exclaimed as he looked over his shoulder to see the new arrival. I've read all the books you authored on the next generation structural engineering, and I must say, you are simply a genius in your field. You may call me Mr. Veidt. The man introduced himself with the mannerisms of a gushing graduate student while offering his hand to shake. You'll have to forgive me, Mr. Veidt, but this is a restricted section of the base, and... Charles said slowly while he shook Veidt's hand. His grip was strong and his hands calloused, but before Charles could learn any more from the contact, the handshake was gone and the visitor interrupted.
Oh, yes. Here I was in a hurry to gush about my appreciation of your work that I didn't finish my introduction. I've been sent here by the Council to gather some preliminary information prior to the end of the month report.
Veidt explained quickly, while he straightened his glasses.
Some of your breakthroughs will literally quite change the world, and I'm not exaggerating when I say so. Advancement without responsibility will bring only ruin, Mr. Veidt. It is our duty to control what we discover until the world is ready for it,
Charles explained quietly, as he did his best to avoid showing his aggravation on his face.
I had enough of gushing flattery back when I taught classes. I just wish that he would get to the point.
Veidt quickly nodded while clasping his hands behind his back.
Oh, I agree completely. For instance, the Lank-class weapons that you've developed just this month. I can scarcely imagine the amount of death and destruction that might be caused if they were to fall into the wrong hands. It is true that a shot fired by a Lank can penetrate all currently used armor materials.
That's correct.
Scary!
Veidt interrupted, and his happy expression faltered just a bit.
I suppose it is a good thing that the ammunition can only be created by an EA-class generator. And to start the EA generator, you either need pre-charged batteries or the specialist from the Stardust project, right? That specialist must be a genius to have come up with so many brilliant inventions. My engineer heart just about gave out when I heard about practical energy shields and teleportation devices. Is it true that once you complete the Kaleidoscope project, you'll be able to teleport to distant locations?
Charles tried to interrupt the motor mouth, but the other man just talked right over him.
I must say though, the Rule Breaker project is what I find myself most impressed by. Having devices that could stop the aliens from using their mental abilities would prove to be quite the advantage if further refined. You are quite the asset to this organization, and it pains me that I cannot simply stay here and talk shop with you for days on end. Council business sadly has priority.
Before any further conversation could be had, Veidt walked to the exit and tapped the door controls with one hand, while straightening his glasses with the other.
Keep up the good work, Raymond,
he said with a smile before he disappeared behind the closing doors. Charles took a moment to rub his eyes before taking one step towards the exit before one of the other engineers flagged him down with a question, then another, and then another.
Well, so much for the movie. Sorry, Twilight.